All right, so I'm sorry I keep getting cut off. A lot of the things that we have to deal with today's day and age are not our fault. They're not our choices. It's the world that we inherited. See, we didn't make our parents' choices. We didn't make our parents turn a blind eye. We didn't make them do that. We didn't make those generations that came before us turn a blind eye to the wrongdoings that are going on. These things that the police are doing to black people. Why do I stand up for black people instead of the police in this situation? Obviously, the police aren't doing these things to me. I'm white. But, oh, really? No. The police do this to whoever they think they can get away with doing it to. Being homeless ain't much different from being black, except that you can take off your backpack sometimes, and then you look like a normal person. Well, isn't that screwed up? So being black, is that normal or is that not normal? Is being autistic normal or is that not normal? I mean, normal is a matter of statistics, right? So statistically, in the United States, being black is not normal, but statistically, being white in Africa is not normal. As far as the racism goes, we got racism coming out of, well, every race out there. And a lot of people like to spout this bullshit about how black people can't be racist. I've heard enough racist jokes out of black people to know that ain't true. Now, does every black person that I know tell me racist jokes? Nope. Some of them find them completely tasteless. Some of them will only tell you lazy white people jokes. You know, all the stuff that it's wrong to say about the black community. All the things that you call somebody racist for saying about the black community. Most of you who are complaining about that say those exact same things about the homeless community. People who hated Jews had to learn that they can't get away with doing the things to Jews that they used to. So they take it out on the homeless too. White people take it out on the homeless. Black people take it out on the homeless. Rich people take it out on the homeless. Poor people take it out on the homeless. Everybody takes it out on who it is that they think they would get away with doing it to. And that depends on where you believe you are in the social standing on the ladder compared to your victim. Now, right off the start, we have a black man who obviously is uncomfortable with the situation, and the first thing that he grabs for is racism and violence. The very first thing that this black man went for, racism and violence. These white people, he'll smack the shit out of her. Well, I'm not allowed to react in that way, am I? People are allowed to actually physically harm me, and I'm not even allowed to say those things. I'm some sort of a terrible person if I say those things. Meanwhile, there's a black man obviously getting away with a lot more than I did. A lot more. He's doing this immediately during the situation. It took me over a year, well over a year, after leaving Virginia. And I left Virginia over a year before Natalie was killed. It took me over a year of having my life threatened and my loved ones threatened, being harassed, being assaulted, before I threatened anyone back. But this guy's starting off with threats. Now, don't get me wrong, he did ask her to move. But I mean, we're not even a minute into the video, and he's already jumped to racism, and he has already jumped to being threatening about physical violence. Let's play the rest of this video. Now, mind you, this woman is a complete and total bitch. I'm not saying that he was in the wrong in what he did. Not entirely, anyway. Was it wrong of him to be threatening to slap the fuck out of somebody? Yes. Was it wrong of him to make it a race issue? Well, yeah. White people. This is one person. And if you look at her, she looks Hispanic. She does not look like a white lady. She looks Hispanic. I don't know how close in you guys can zoom in on that or if it'll even allow you to see it. But she don't look much like a white lady to me. But then again, we got this narrative from all these different folks, especially white folks, spreading this ignorance. Oh, black people can't be racist. Latinos can't be racist. Whew! Boy, oh boy. I grew up in poor neighborhoods with minorities. I grew up in institutions with minorities. Anybody is capable of racism. Your preacher is capable of racism. Of course, your preacher is also capable of molesting your children, as the news has shown us time and again. Now let's press play.
Move. Hey, just get out. Get in the car, bro. Move. Ain't nobody gonna touch you. Move. Bro, is this all homie? Don't touch me. Bro, move around.
Now here she is. A lot of women prey on the fact that they're women to try to get other men to fight their battles for them, which is part of what she's doing here. That's what the repeating herself, saying the same thing over and over again, when he's not even trying to touch her. He's got his distance. She is touching his vehicle, and he is maintaining an appropriate distance. And she's saying, don't touch me, don't touch me, don't touch me. Trying to insinuate that he's going to. Now, don't get me wrong, after threatening to slap the shit out of her, it's kind of understandable. Kind of. She shouldn't be in front of his vehicle. She should not be breaking the law to prevent two people who were not breaking the law from leaving. What she was doing was illegally detaining those two men. Now, she does that repeat thing quite a few times through this, and thank goodness for the bystanders that she was screaming, come help her. Thank goodness those bystanders, including her own husband, did not take her side. I wouldn't. I wouldn't take my wife's side if she was like that. Not a chance in fucking hell. Matter of fact, I'd like to know that she's like that before marrying her. Because if I know that she's like that, I'm not going to marry her to begin with. Now, she doesn't have a thick accent like she's an immigrant. So people can't be real big racist against immigrants because of this video. But if she had been, people would definitely go off about that. About how this is how immigrants act. White people, white people, white people. This lady does not look white. She doesn't. Well, let's continue with the video and hear all the other shenanigans.
Don't touch me. Move around. Don't touch me. We ain't gonna touch you. You know you're gonna press charges. You trespassing too. You own this motherfucker? Yeah. You own it? Maybe I do. You don't with them dirty ass feet. You don't. Them dirty ass feet you don't. Get on somewhere, bro. No. Hey, just back the car up. Just back the car up. Pull out, bro.
Now, mind you, at this point, She's been standing in front of their vehicle for a while. She hasn't moved. She's trying to call people over. And in many cases, there's a case in New York a few years ago where we got to see how a woman was having an argument with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend is trying to leave, and she jumps out and starts screaming what a terrible person he is. Meanwhile, he isn't even doing the things that she's claiming. She's claiming that he just hit her. He's just trying to get away from her. And this dude starts getting assaulted. No, I was wrong about that. She said that he said a racial slur, and he hadn't. And it turns out that this lady, was his ex-girlfriend, and it was just a big fucking mess. But the point is, in the video, he's getting beat down by like 6 people because of a situation exactly like this one. You don't know if those people are going to take your side or if they're going to take somebody else's. In this particular case, especially with what's going on, yeah, people don't want to step on a black person's toes. They're finally getting to the point where, well, maybe I shouldn't fuck with black people. Maybe they're human beings, and maybe they might light my fucking police station on fire if I shoot one. What exactly is she hoping will happen if someone comes over? She'll be able to do things that many women that I know have been taught. Most of the time, when you have a woman who has this kind of an attitude, what she wants is she wants other men around so that she can get physically violent with a male. And it's fine because she's a female and because she's small, and it must be okay for her to get away with it. And that way, if he defends himself against her, her hope is that those men being there will, number one, prevent him from defending himself against her. Number two, prevent him from knocking her clean the fuck out, like she obviously has coming. And I'm not saying that she has it coming because she's a woman. I'm not saying that she has it coming because she's a racist. I'm saying that she has it coming because she is trying to, at this point, incite violence against these men. She's trying to entrap them by playing victim. And where is the crime that's been committed here? I'm not seeing a crime being committed here by these 2 men. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, the whole "I ought to slap the shit out of you" comment, obviously that's not something that you want to hear. But at the same time, like, she's being openly hostile with these men, trying to get them in trouble for trespassing. And he tells the lady straight out, "I'll buy one of these vehicles." Damn. But we'll listen to a little bit more of it, because see, here's the thing. First of all, it wasn't right for her to play victim. It's also not right for these men to make it out to be a race issue against white people. White people did this. It's always white people, white people, white people, white people. But then when it comes to white people, you say, you did it yourself. You did that to yourself. Black police officer shoots a white man in the fucking head. An unarmed white man in the head. Did he do that because he's racist? They do this to hundreds of homeless people every single month, just in the state of Colorado. All right? Hundreds per month. There have literally been more homeless people killed by police in the state of Colorado this year than have happened nationwide in the last 3 years with black people. But we want to make it a black issue. And anybody who is not black needs to go to the back of the fucking bus. Native Americans, with all of this shit that they continue to go through, they have to go to the back of the bus because Black Lives Matter. All these children getting completely fucked over by CPS and those very same police departments. They got to get to the back of the fucking bus because it's Black lives that matter. All these white people this shit is happening to, they need to get to the back of the bus because it's Black lives that matter. With all due respect, if you, who are all these people who want to be a part of Black Lives Matter, had any brains in your fucking head, you would work together with the other victims instead of telling them to shut the fuck up. We're only focusing on the black victims. Only black victims matter. Why is it that these terrible things that have happened to these white people at the hands of minority police officers are not out there all over the news like this? Because there is no organization like Black Lives Matters who can operate and do those things for white people. If you try, you are tagged as if you are the KKK or Hitler him fucking self. And then you want to say, oh, well, white people deserve it because of slavery. Bitch, I never owned a human being a day in my fucking life. You want to take it out on me? That your ancestors were owned by another human being? So were mine. You are not going to find a human being on this planet who did not have descendants who were property of someone else. Well, you guys want to pretend that black people are the only people who got screwed in any of this, especially with the slavery thing. Did you know that during that period of time, there were white slaves all over Africa? Barbary corsairs were literally wiping out entire towns for slaves in England. This was after the Revolutionary War and before the War of 1812. Do you know what the War of 1812 was fought over? Americans were being stolen by those same Barbary corsairs on the northern coast of Africa. And what did the British do? The British, since most of these were coastal towns being raided by pirates because they're coastal towns, it's easier to raid a coastal town than it is to go all the way inland if you're on a fucking boat. It's easier to get the fuck out of there if you don't travel 30 miles inland. So what did the British do? The British, being low on manpower but not low on ships, started impressing American sailors, American merchantmen, pressing them into service. At the Battle of Trafalgar, most of those soldiers at the Battle of Trafalgar were pressed into service, between 40 and 60%. And up to 10% of those people were Americans, forced into Admiral Nelson's Navy as slaves. And they were fighting against the Spanish and the French, who did the same thing. We need to stop making everything about racism. I don't go blaming all black people every time one of these fucked up officers does something fucked up. I don't go blaming all Hispanic women if some crazy Hispanic lady comes up and does crazy shit like this to me. Does it matter that she's Hispanic? No, it doesn't. Or rather, it shouldn't. It shouldn't matter that these men are black. It shouldn't matter that a homeless person has to carry around a backpack full of the things that keep them alive. See, while you get to go into your house or your parents' house or your boyfriend's house or whatever, and you have a safe place to go to sleep. Now you say, oh, well, you know, my boyfriend could get drunk and do something mean to me. That's right. But that's one person you have to worry about, and only on the situations where he's drunk. Whereas if you're stuck out on the streets, You have to worry about college students beating you up or raping you. You have to worry about police beating you up or raping you. You have to worry about homeless people beating you up and raping you. You have to worry about everyone when you're homeless. You have to worry about black people when you're homeless. You have to worry about white people when you're homeless. You have to worry about Hispanic people when you're homeless. You never know when some black person in Boulder, Colorado is going to call the cops on you for being homeless. Well, there's a lot of these black folks on here saying, hey, I get the cops called on me just for walking down the street. You're not the only one. Native Americans deal with the same shit, and so do the homeless, even more than you do. There are more hate crimes against the homeless than all other hate crimes combined in the United States, and that's not even counting police interactions. And I'd say probably 90% of the bullshit that homeless people have to go through, 90% of the actual harm done to them is done to them by law enforcement. Most of the assaults against homeless people come from law enforcement. The most victimized people in America are former foster children. They comprise the largest cross-section of the homeless population and the largest cross-section of the jails and prisons. Is this because poor people are terrible people or foster kids are terrible people? It's because you're dropped off at 18 with nothing. And it's illegal to have nothing in a capitalist nation such as this. Under the Dome typed hello, sir. Hello, Under the Dome. We'll continue to play this. The reaction that this woman is trolling for is a reaction that we have seen hundreds of times on videos of many situations like this. However, with the current theme of America, these people didn't want to do that. These people didn't want to be accused of being a racist, especially when it's a black man holding the camera.
Just back this motherfucker up. You know her?
All right, Bobby Redkin typed, can you refresh us how you ended up homeless? You seem more aware than the average person. Well, I was in the system and then I turned 18. And I got dropped off here in Chapel, Nebraska without a vehicle, without a driver's license, not even knowing really how to drive. I had one shoe, I had a pair of pants and a t-shirt. And that's what I had. I got dropped off in Chapel, Nebraska with that. No money, no job, no nothing. I fought hard to try to get unhomeless, but the problem is that you're just too fucking easy to victimize. People can steal your tools, they can steal your money, they can steal everything that you earned if you're homeless, or if they're able to play like they're doing you the favor by letting you stay there. One guy that I lived with here in Chapel, Nebraska, his name was Philip McPhee. And there were 3 people who lived there, 4 people who lived there. There was me, there was Jerem, that's Jeremy, fuck, what was his last name? I can't even remember. And then there was Dirt, that's Chris Burns. And then there's Phil, or Filthy, that's Philip McPhee. And Good Morning, Casey Steele. And I had the bills in my name because they couldn't get them in theirs. And they spent all of their money chasing vagina, buying drugs, buying alcohol. And then when I told them that I was going to move out and I was going to turn off the electricity because it was in my name, they threatened to assault me and then went to Lake McConaughey to get fucking drunk. And when they came back, well, they wanted to come beat me up because the power was off and I was moved out. Well, excuse me, I'm paying all of the bills, literally. Yeah, I'm not going to fucking stay here. and be treated like I'm the fucking mouse underneath the couch. And that's how it was. Dirt had a room. Phil had a room. Jeremy was getting ready to move out when I moved in, so he was only there for about a month. Me, I had a couch out in the living room, and most of the time in the living room is not an okay place to go to sleep because they're busy partying the whole time. Anyway, long story short, I was 18 and made homeless because I turned 18. I was able to get unhomeless a couple of times. Really had to bust my ass for that. But being as I was in Chapel, Nebraska, and with no vehicle, you have to depend on others. If you have somebody who is supposed to carpool with you and they don't call you up and they don't come and pick you up and you have to call into work, you're going to lose your fucking job. That's just as simple as it is. But in an area like this, you have to depend on people for things like that. And people say, oh, well, why didn't you call me? Well, in many of those cases, I did call them and they didn't pick up. You know how much it feels like you just got kicked in the teeth when you call somebody for help and then they tell you, oh, you should have called me. You didn't answer. That's not my fault. Bobby Red type, you said you were in the system, then you turned 18. Tell us before you what led to getting into the system, please. All right. I was 4 years old. My mom was in rehab for cocaine possession, and that pretty much stayed that way for majority of my life. She wasn't allowed to have us. My dad, when I was 4 years old, got busted with 38 counts of cocaine possession with intent to sell, and he went to prison. So I went into foster care. My mom couldn't stay off the cocaine, but she thought that she deserved to have kids, so to get us back, and that's how we ended up in Boulder County, Colorado, and that's where my abuse started. Now, when Natalie died, I had been basically homeless off and on the entirety of my adult life, and people can rip me off and get away with it. Just call me mentally ill and it's magically okay, or them and their family gang up on you and it's your word versus theirs when they stole all your shit. That's what happens when you don't have family. I was made homeless this last time, trained by Natalie's death. I was staying with Ken Wilson and Leah Plunkett at 3395 South Zuni. If you type up that address, you'll notice that it's in Englewood, not Sheridan. Officer Brian Valenzuela had no business stealing that evidence, and he had no business investigating that case because it was out of his jurisdiction. But then again, he's an officer who is dirty and friendly with other dirty officers. So Ken and Leah stole my money, my disability, because I am disabled, before Natalie was killed. Ken told me that he was going to pay me back on December 8th, but he didn't. On December 9th, I got a hold of Natalie's mother to try to explain to her that I had been abused for over a year over things that I never did to her kids. She didn't get back to me. On the 12th, I exposed Bollinger with an email that Natalie had sent me in 2016. On the 13th, Natalie made that last public post. On the 15th, she offered to meet me and to finally do what it is that she should have done to begin with, to talk to me like a human being and put a fucking stop to this. But it turned out she was completely full of shit. When she was killed, I was made homeless. Ken and Leah would not allow me back there, despite the fact that my rent was paid up 3 months in advance. And then all of my stuff that was worth money, they built an artificial wall in the garage and put everything that I had that was worth money behind that artificial wall. So when I went to get my stuff back, I couldn't. However, let's get back to this racism bullshit here. A lot of this stuff that's being made into racist issues, especially racist issues against white people, no, you're making it a race issue. The way that Zed Atkinson and Sammy Leon Lawrence IV and Michelle Rodriguez was treated, they weren't treated that way because of the color of their skin. They were treated that way because they were assumed to be homeless. But you don't want to hear that, do you? You want to talk about how 40% of people who are incarcerated are black. It's not quite that high, first of all. It's just pretty damn close. And second of all, you pay no attention to the fact that most of those black people were homeless when they were picked up and incarcerated. They don't have the money for an actual lawyer. They don't have the money to even use the goddamn telephone. Their public pretender is not going to do their job. Not in Boulder County, not in Arapahoe County, not in Jefferson County, and sure as fuck not in Adams County. I was made homeless over the deaths that I didn't kill. After her and her junkie friends had made my life hell for an entire year before she was killed. Now let's press play on this. We'll see if it works.
Move her out, bro. What the fuck? Thank you. Move her out, bro. Go.
Now the people that she called over for help, they're running scrimmage. Y'all know what that is. They're basically blocking for the passer in a basketball game. Like an exhibition game, though. Basically, all that dude did was she called him over, and instead of him going after the black dudes like she was hoping, he stuck his arms out like this. He stood in front of her, stuck his arms out like this, and made sure that she couldn't approach those black men anymore. Most of the time, when a woman is acting irate like this, she is looking for someone to get physically violent with. She wants to actually hurt someone, but she wants people there. She wants people there because she wants to play on social bias. A man is not supposed to hit a woman. That's the specific bias that this woman is trying to play on. Now she's trying to run her over. His vehicle has not moved since the start of this video. The vehicle has not moved an inch. Why are you trying to run me over? Why are you trying to run me over? She's trying to play victim. We teach girls in America that this is okay. This is what Natalie does. This is what Jamie does. This is what Lana does. But we teach every woman in America this. Every single one of them. By reciting that same bullshit over and over again. It's never okay to hit a woman. Motherfucker, if a woman is trying to kill you or your kids, yeah, knock her the fuck out. Knock her the fuck out before she kills someone. I hate when people do that shit too, Casey. If it's a life or death situation, yes, knock them the fuck out. If that is the only way to save a life in that particular situation, knock them the fuck out. Most of the time, y'all say, oh, if somebody did this or somebody did that, I would shoot them. Most of you do not have a gun, all right? You do not have a gun, especially if you're homeless or black. Because in many cases, No, we can't give women equality. If we give women equality, they're going to get their asses kicked. Are you fucking kidding me? No, Bobby Red, we can't give women equality. We have to give them special rights. Now, as far as guns go, I love them. I think that the Second Amendment is the second best amendment. I think the best amendment to our Constitution is the first one. Then again, the Second Amendment is meant to protect the most important amendment, which is, of course, the first one. The Second Amendment is not a hunting law. I'm in Nebraska. There are 6 guns in this state for every man, woman, and child in it. Right across the street, Dennis Dickinson, he has in his gun cabinet 2 firearms that used to belong to me. Chris Stegeman, the very first firearm he ever owned, I bought for him. It was an AK-47. Romanian made, semi-auto only. Bought it at Cabela's. And it fired the same ammunition as my 7.62 by 39 millimeter SKS. When it all comes down to it, we got too many people playing victim. All right, we got a bunch of black people wanting to play like they're the only victims, and a bunch of people that are not black willing to go along with that, but it's mostly just white people willing to go along with that. I know too many Native Americans to believe that any Native Americans that I know believe that. Why? Because Native Americans have to go through that shit too. They're not going to believe for one moment that only black people are going through something that they are going through as well. That is just not going to happen. What is the cost of buying guns in America? That depends. If you have a setup like I have, nothing. I mean, the gun lathe that I have was specifically made for making Lee Enfield rifles in World War One, and that machine was continued in use in World War II. It was made in Liverpool. If I don't have access to my gun lathe, I have all of the stuff in here literally to make a firearm. I can make a shotgun easy as fuck. I can make a semi-auto or full auto shotgun out of just junk that I have in my trailer. The question at this point isn't what's the cost of buying a gun in America, because that all depends on where you get it and what kind you're getting. What it's coming down to now is what's the cost of not being armed. Throughout history, we get to see what happens to an unarmed populace. The government has all of the control, and they afford their goons special rights. FBI has entered chat. I can't tell. If he's typing anything, I can't read it. There's a guy who's been harassing me on here, goes by FBI. So, kind of wondering if that's the dude he's talking about. The FBI are fucking pissed poor at their jobs too. There's over 100 phone calls to the FBI on my YouTube here. The reason, one of the few reasons that I like Nebraska is because of the Second Amendment. I know that if shit goes to shit here, there are people that are going to pull out their firearms and they're going to use those firearms for protecting their rights. The problem is that we've got a whole bunch of idiots who don't realize that every time that this happens to a black person or a gay person or a Hispanic person or an immigrant, that increases the chances of it happening to them. Most white folks are only going to pull out their guns to brandish them and show them off and talk about how mean and fucking shit that they're capable of being. When it all comes down to it, most of those gun owners aren't even going to have a gun handy when there's a situation where they're going to need it. Most of those people will have to go to their safe, unlock their safe, pull out their gun, pull out their clip, put the clip in the gun, take the safety off, cock the motherfucker, and a bunch of other shit. And depending on which firearm you're getting, it might not even be in that order. All of that before you can use that firearm to protect yourself or your children, which is probably the reason that you have it in a gun safe instead of a gun case out in your living room. There's a lot of people that I know that had gun cases in their living rooms until they got kids, and then they're afraid of accidental discharge. These people used to leave a shotgun behind their back door and another one at their front door just in case. But you know what else? I know lots of people in Chapel, Nebraska who to this day had their kids raised from day one with firearms to be aware of a firearm's destructive power. And those people never had a problem with their kids and firearms. Those firearms have been behind their door where they have sat since before those children were born. All right. Ash typed, nobody in the chat called that. He's not here. Thing is, I have terrible nightmares over the things that I've gone through. One of the worst things that I had to endure through all of this was having nightmares about how they had treated me in the jail, and I wake up and I'm still in the jail. The inmates weren't the problem, the guards were. The issues that I had with the other inmates were instigated often by the guards. Because I was assaulted by a cop who was involved in 7 assault cases. 7 different people he assaulted in 2018 after being removed from another police department because he was assaulting people. And this officer is darker than every single person that he assaulted. Yet, in all 3 of those cases, they tried to play it like it was a race issue. And those were the only 3 cases that anybody gave a shit about. The 4 white people that were assaulted by Waylon Lolatai, nobody gives a holy fuck about. Casey Steele, Waylon. I'll actually post a link here if it'll stay. I'll type YouTube and then type Waylon Lolatai. Now, for trying to turn in Waylon Lolatai, I was sent to Clearview. All right. In Clearview, I told on them for the things they did to me, and they, let's see, copy link address. This one's about Waylon Lolatai. It's from Channel 7, actually. So it's not one of my videos. It's one from the news. Now we're going to post up from Clearview. Clearview is where I was sent when I tried to turn in Officer Lolatai. Now there's 2 different things here, and there were 2 very specific issues that I had. And both of them were also covered by Channel 7. However, Channel 7 didn't care what I had to say about Clearview. Even though the things that I said about Clearview months before these people were killed is exactly how these people were killed. Waylon Lolatai. After Natalie was killed, I was trying to get the police to do their jobs, and Waylon Lolatai was interested in helping to cover up the crimes of his fellow officers in Natalie's situation before she was killed. And the conduct of the police in Boulder County after she was killed was entirely inappropriate. I kept on trying to go to them about the assaults that I was having to endure. I kept trying to explain to them what was going on with Natalie. They didn't care. All they were interested in was separating me from the people who were trying to help me. They did this by claiming that Broomfield wanted to talk to me when they didn't. And the officers dragged me down to the police annex, separated me from Corbin Bailey, who was the guy who was going to help me. And then when I got down there, it turned out they were completely full of shit. But they kept on doing that stuff for 5 full days before I had a mental fucking breakdown. He does have a hard time keeping his hands to himself, Casey. But that's the thing, is that these aren't the only officers. There are 2 other officers who later on in the year took part in assaulting me. And they killed a man, believe it or not, a white guy, but he was a college student. So he means more than I do. All right, this one is about those 2 deputies. And police everywhere were busy making fun of me. They just thought the whole situation was fucking hilarious. So here's one about the 2 deputies who took part in assaulting me, and then within a month of their assault against me, they killed a man. And I'd been trying to turn them in the whole time that I was in the jails. I was trying to turn these people in. The whole time I was in Boulder County Jail over in Arapahoe County warrant, being assaulted repeatedly by those same officers, that same department that I had been trying to get charges against for over 7 months by that point. And they killed a man, made fun of him while they did it. And this thing where people keep saying, I don't understand, I don't understand. I do understand not being able to breathe. I do understand the tactics that police use. That's why I speak out. That's why I fight for black rights the same as I fight for my own. Because they are the same rights. And many black people are denied the very same rights that I've been denied. But then again, there's a group to help them. There's Black Lives Matters. And there's a lot of white people that are part of Black Lives Matter. And every time you say white people, white people, white people, you are spitting in the face of those people who are standing with you, actually standing with you. Nobody ever did that with me. They made empty fucking promises, but never kept their word. And because I'm white, I still have to go to the back of the bus. It is the actions of the gang, Ash. Ash D typed, seems like the actions of a gang, not a police force. That is true. Boulder Police Department specifically hires people that they know will harm the homeless. Because rich people don't want to see poor people. They don't want to see poverty. What do rich people spend their money on? Getting more money and pretty things, like Donald Trump buying his wives. Okay, off topic, but how about streaming in different locations? Start by outside. Well, first of all, I don't get a very good connection. I also don't exactly have outlets outside. I record from here because it works and because it's private. Also, especially on days today, like it's starting to get pretty bright out, I gotta wear funky goggles, and then I just look funky. And then I end up getting treated like shit because I don't look pretty. Because wearing those goggles is something that's weird looking. So that's just the start. But most of the things that I do, I have multiple reasons for doing it. A lot of the decisions that I made that ended up being the wrong decisions, they were the wrong decisions because I had the wrong information. With the information that I had at the time that I made those decisions, yes, those were absolutely the right decisions.
Is this your wife? Is this your wife? Thank you.
All right, Bobby Red type start a Patreon or something. Maybe people will help you. There have been 5 GoFundMe's for me, and I haven't made a single dollar off of any of them. The first 3 were from people who used to be friends of mine that did some pretty fucked up shit. Well, all right, 2 of them. One of them was somebody who used to be a friend of mine. One of them was Karamia, who is a complete and total stranger. And one of them is another stranger whose name I don't even know. The other 2, I was finally able to fumble through it and able to make a GoFundMe for myself. And the first one, it was on a Facebook that I don't have. And the other one was after everybody just no longer gave a shit. After I'd been cut off long enough that people just didn't care. If you guys know how to do that stuff, I mean, most of the issues that I've been having is not having the resources to do these things, and the fact that it takes months to get the help that you're trying to get, where it only takes them 30 seconds to fuck up your life. Like that whole situation with Jen Beebe. 5 goddamn months it took her to call me back. I've literally been forced to break the law to defend myself in that time because she was not doing her job. And any of you who listen to that conversation, you're pretty fucking as aware as I am that she's not going to do a goddamn thing. See, here's the thing. When you're a witness, you are a witness. You don't have to be a fucking lawyer to be a goddamn witness. You don't have to be a police officer to be a goddamn witness. And you're right, Casey. She did act like a complete you know what. But you should see how my public pretenders treated me. Holy fuck. I got a video that's on my Facebook, and it's of my conversation with one of my public pretenders. And, like, literally, by the time I start recording the conversation, we're already 20 minutes into it. And for 20 whole minutes, I'm trying to get her to tell me who is going to be my public defender in court. And for 20 minutes, she doesn't answer that question. It gets to the point where I threaten to sue her. And at that point, her and the people in her office, the public pretender's office in Larimer County, Colorado, committed felonies because they already knew what they did was wrong. And they already knew that they would lose if I could take them to court. So they did everything in their power and conspired with the judge in that case. The very same judge that let a child molester walk out of the courtroom because he was in the military at one point in time. This very same judge wouldn't allow me a new public pretender unless I signed a piece of paper. Either A, I sign a piece of paper making the illegal actions of the public pretender's office okay, or I plead guilty to a crime I did not commit. Now, you guys want to tell me that's legal? I want to hear somebody tell me that that's legal. Because it's sure as hell legal for them to do whatever it is that they tell me is illegal when I do it. It's perfectly fucking legal for all of them. Am I black? Is this stuff happening to me because I'm black? No, it's not. I have to deal with bias the same as anybody else. I just have to deal with a lot more of it. See, a lot of women that I know that are homeless, they date people who abuse them. One woman, she was dating a guy until a couple of months ago. A couple of months ago, he abused her. Now, I had told her story a year before when this very same guy had done that. The very same guy beat her up a year earlier. And she wanted something done about it. And then when she got back together with him, I was like, hey, if he beat the hell out of you and you're getting back together with him, like, don't ask me for help, please. It hurts that you're going back to that situation. And rightly so, because what did he do? He beat her up again this year. But she stuck up for him when she got back together with him. When she got back together with her predator, with the dude who beat her up, she defended him. She said, oh, he's different. He's changed. Well, except when he gets to drinking, which I've voiced about that. Alcohol, yes. Most domestic violence disputes start with alcohol. So, she's also one of my key witnesses. She's also one of the people that I helped after Natalie was killed. Best I could with the resources I had. I tried to help Anna Hunka too, but she ended up dead under some pretty fucked up circumstances. Like she died in the same way and in the guy's house who had told her that he would get away with killing her just by saying that she had a seizure. She had a boyfriend who cut her wrist and told her that because she cut on herself that the police would just assume that she did it. Telling me to get on this stuff doesn't give me the ability to do these things, though. The only reason that I have a YouTube is because somebody helped me set it up. The only reason I have a Facebook is because somebody helped me set it up. The only reason that I have an email is because somebody helped me set it up. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I'm able to do now, like copy and paste and drag and click and a lot of that other stuff that, I didn't know how to do before. And I know how to take screenshots, although this computer won't take screenshots. I don't know why. It did. But it actually took Katie Cahill to teach me how to do that. I didn't learn how to take screenshots on a computer until over a year after Natalie was dead. I didn't learn how to take screenshots on my telephone until about a month after she was dead. Well, it's all complicated to me. If I get overwhelmed, I shut down. It's not a choice. It's the fact that there is so much, and the more that got added to it, the worse it got. If you can help me with that, that's great. There's a lot of people who have offered to help, but then they just can't have time. They just don't have time, or they just never get around to it, or they just stop caring because I'm not a big major name. I helped to find people for a few years before Natalie was killed, and I've been helping find people, obviously, since after Natalie was killed, including her own twin sister, Alicia Bollinger, on 3 separate occasions. But people don't want to look at that part. They don't want to pay attention to the fact that, like, the first 2 people that I got a hold of when I found out Natalie disappeared was Brett Roloff and Sarah Rubiolo. Sarah Rubiolo was one of the people that I helped to find. Imagine that. Sarah disappeared when she was about 15 or 16. Ended up on a missing persons post. On my Facebook, that original post is still there. That was the same year that Hannah Pendergrass disappeared. It was the same year that Mobley got stabbed with a K-bar by a guy who went by the name of Monroe. It was the same year that Spencer Crawford killed Angus. It was the same year that Desiree and DJ got stabbed up in the mountains. And Desiree was stabbed over 30 times. DJ was gutted like a fish. He's got a scar that goes from here all the way up. By the way, it was a black man who did that to them. Does it matter that he was black? Is this a racially motivated crime? Let me explain something. DJ, he's not American. He wasn't even born in this country. Desiree's American. She's a redheaded white girl. Well, I'm glad you don't mind being recorded. A lot of people, they promised to come forward, but they never did. And because they never did, I posted it up in public for the whole world to see. Of course, the whole world didn't want to see it, did they? But I don't trust anybody, and there's a reason for that. Most people give me reason not to. See, this is, if you guys have ever seen Of Mice and Men, when you call somebody mentally ill, even if they're mild-mannered like I used to be, and actually still am, just not on the internet. You know, people just tend to walk all over you and not really give two shits. When you're the guy who is constantly helping others, it doesn't occur to people that you might need help too. When people needed help, I helped them how they asked. But when you're autistic, people aren't going to do that for you. They're going to assume that whole Of Mice and Men thing. You might break somebody's neck on accident. I need a 4-mile fucking explanation of why you need that help. But now I need to interrupt you every other sentence so that you can't even explain what's going on. And then I'm going to ask you questions that are all over the timeline, and then you're going to get shit all sorts of fucked up. Because there's a lot of stuff that I did that is fucked up. Fuck yes, I admit it. But at the same time, the things that happened to me long term, when I did those things back just once, I was a terrible person. And it wasn't even me doing the things that were done to me. It was just me saying those things was enough for me to be harmed. But people actually doing it to me is fine. I don't got to start. No, everybody that I've trusted has stabbed me in the back or been a coward. I don't have to trust anyone. I absolutely don't. I already knew that going up to Lana and Amanda's, there was a chance that they were going to pull the same shit that they did before. The same shit that they pulled that was the reason that I stopped being friends with them to begin with. In Virginia in 2016, when I was visiting Miss Natalie, I got rid of my dad. I got rid of Candace Bondurant. I got rid of, and mind you, the reason that I got rid of Miss Jerry and Lana and Amanda was over Colin Kaepernick. They were asking for harm to come to Colin Kaepernick. They wanted a soldier to punch Colin Kaepernick in the throat. And I typed that in that case, somebody should punch that soldier in the throat. And then I'm the devil, right? I don't care if you're a law enforcement officer or a soldier. If you're going to go punch a civil rights activist in the throat, you deserve that very same treatment. If an officer chokes a man to death, that officer should be choked to death. That is fair and equal. Do you really want to live in a fair and equal society? Do you? Now, in that particular case, hey, if an officer shoots a man in the head and kills him that way, well, that officer, if we were doing the eye for an eye thing that a lot of Christians want to adopt and adapt when it suits them, but it's not even in the fucking Bible. That's in the Quran. So now you're picking and choosing parts of the Quran that you can try to twist to make it okay that you do these violent things. Eye for an eye. Ted Bollinger did that. Eye for an eye. You type that I can't write everyone off. You know what? I can do whatever it is that I choose as far as that goes. There are lots of good people out there. Lots of these people who wanted to help me and promised to help me and ended up stabbing me in the back or helping out my predators are actually good people. And I do mean that. I'm sure Lana's pretty fucking selfish, but her daughter Amanda is a good person. She's selfish too, but she is a genuinely good person. She's also a meth addict and a former prostitute and a bunch of other things, but does that make her a bad person? I mean, let's look at the reason that she was a prostitute to begin with. She wasn't making enough money to take care of her and her kids and her mom. Now, Ms. Jerry, is she a terrible person? Not even fucking close. She's just Lana's bitch. Is Jamie Curtis a bad person? Yes and no. I mean, yeah, she does some extremely fucked up things to other human beings, and she is a twisted, contorted manipulator who knows that she can use her looks to get what she wants. But at the same time, like, she really, until she got her son involved in doing that, she really did take care of her son. With Shannon Alvarado, is she a terrible person? No, she's a fucking addict. She's an alcoholic. Any of y'all who have ever had to deal with a severe alcoholic, you already know what I'm talking about, and I don't have to explain it to any of you. Those of you who don't know what I'm talking about live under a fucking rock. Sometimes you have to move on, and sometimes you're not allowed. When I left Virginia to move on. All of these people that I allowed back into my life because Natalie was killed, people like Candace Bondurant, Lana Engeline, Amanda Engeline, Jerry Sparks, my dad. These are all people that never had any business coming back into my life after what they did. There's a reason that out of all of the people that I kicked out of my life in October of 2016, there is a reason that I never tried to contact Miss Jerry again. There is a reason I did not try to contact Candace again. There is a reason that I did not try to contact my father again. I was done with those people and their cruelty and their excuses. Out of all of the people that I got rid of in 2016 in October, the only 3 that I ever made any attempt to recontact after that was Natalie and Alicia and Maddie because of assaults that I was taking over crimes that were never fucking committed. You're goddamn right I'm going to speak out. And to know that Natalie Bollinger was protecting her rapists, protecting her predators. You know, I don't trust the police, but I had to. And I went in and spoke to police on over 100 occasions in the last 3 years. And they have proven to me time and again why it is that you do not trust the police under any circumstance. Always go in with someone else. But I couldn't get anyone else to go in with me, and I didn't have a caseworker who would do their fucking job. After Natalie was killed, yeah, none of these places gave a fuck. Nicole Peralta here in Nebraska. That was a giant goddamn pain in the ass and a mess. Having to deal with Jen Beebe as well, who's obviously not interested in doing her fucking job. She's interested in covering up the fact that she did wrong shit. And she knows it. And those of you who heard that conversation and heard her being a bitch, you understand. This is what happens. Now, as far as Black Lives Matters, yeah, I'm not going to follow that narrative. Yes, they matter, but so do the rest of us. It's not white people doing this to black people. It's bigots doing this to everyone. It's a bunch of bigots bitching about a bunch of other bigots. Every person that I have tried to trust has showed me why I can't trust them. Every single one.